Hello, I'm David Bellamy. As it's World Penguin Day, I'm going to demonstrate how I paint these fascinating creatures. So we'll now shoot off to the very bottom of the world at Tierra del Fuego and see if we can find some penguins. This is the Otway penguin colony near Punta Arenas, and here we have the Magellanic penguins, which have two black bands across the top of their chests there, and some of them are quite headless. You can just imagine what these two are talking about. Oh, George has just lost his head. And it's what I want to produce here is a bit of a narrative with all this interaction of the penguins and how they behave. And we've got a couple here doing something naughty, but the thing about this particular photograph is that it shows the colours, the blueness, cobalt blue in the top there, which must be reflecting the sky, and also there's some yellowish colour in there. So we look for these colours in these birds, although there's a lot of white in there. So those are the things that I look for when I'm doing this. So what we're going to do, I'm going to introduce you now to Mildred, the magnificent Magellanic penguin. And sometimes these are called the jackass penguin. And here she is looking for something on the ground. And we've got a couple of penguins in the background here who are a little bit sort of supercilious. And so we're going to introduce these into the painting. Those are the ones I've chosen. Now I'm going to start with a mixture of cobalt blue and some cadmium red to produce a sort of bluish grey for these background penguins. And I'm just putting them in first in this way. This is a rather interesting brush. It's one of Rosemary & Co.'s latest brushes. It's a synthetic one called the Red Dot, and these are marvellous brushes. They come to a wonderful point and they hold a lot of paint. This is a number 8 brush, and I'm just painting these two penguins an overall wash of cobalt blue and cadmium red, and just putting them in that way. Nothing really special. This is the I've drawn this out. It's on Saunders Waterford £140 knot paper. A lovely surface to work on, absolutely gorgeous. So I'm just bringing in these pebbles. There's a pebbly beach here, so I'm just bringing the colour down a little bit more. This is Mildred here. We'll work on her in a moment. And you can see the sort of almost air of superiority in these penguins in the background there, and the sort of haughty and disapproving perhaps of Mildred. And it's lovely to create this sort of narrative. I love these instances where we can get some interesting story going. Just a little bit more of the edge of the beach here. This is Otway Sound in the background. And now I'm going to work on the penguin, the lighter part of the penguin, bearing in mind that there's absolute white around there where the sunlight's catching it. So we'll have some cobalt blue to start with. And then I'm dropping in some Naples yellow lower down. And the Naples yellow can come down onto the beach. I'm letting it flow down, dropping it into the beach area. And the wing, of course. We want some colour on the wing. And I'm also bringing in some yellow ochre into the beach area. It's a lovely colour for dropping into cobalt. And then just touches of alizarin crimson here and there, just to give it a little bit more colour, a little bit more excitement perhaps. And now I just want to add a little bit of cobalt blue. Over there. And that's about it for the moment. I think I'm going to have to dry it off now, let it dry, and then work a little bit more into it. Right, I'm now going to put the sky in. Now I'm doing this after I've done these the first stage of the penguins, because what I want to do is to bring the sky down over these penguins, and it's a way of creating a softer image over them. And it's a technique I love to incorporate because it gives that lovely sort of sense of losing the strength of the wash on the penguins. So there we are, bring it down over Mildred. And for this I'm going to use, this is lavender, one of Daniel Smith's beautiful colours. It granulates beautifully. It's got a lovely gentle granulation, which is wonderful for skies. So we'll bring that down there and over them here. On the right hand side towards the light, I'm going to use, I'm using the Naples yellow over the side, but we'll take some of the lavender up into that area, the bottom, and here. You can see it granulating there beautifully. Trying to keep the white edge on this wing here. And then I'll transfer to a smaller brush. Bringing in the sea area. Rather a lot of water coming down there. And I'm just mopping up the water here now because there's just too much. So what I'm going to do is just pull out a little bit of the colour here. In fact, what I do is usually pull it out with a flatter brush like this. Just brings out the chest of these rather haughty penguins. And we'll put a little bit more detail on them later, but not too much because they're in the background. So back to the cobalt and cadmium red, just a little bit darker now, and I'm just working with this red dot brush again and creating some detail in the beach, the pebbles. Bearing in mind the light is coming from the right all the time. So I just described some of the pebbles in this way, and then bring in a little bit of shadow into them, making the most of the light areas that I've left where the sunlight is catching the tops of the pebbles. Just picking up some burnt umber. All these colours are the Daniel Smith extra fine watercolours. So some burnt umber and cobalt blue. So building it up slowly in this way, having slightly darker bits to highlight the pebbles in places, but I don't want to put too many in, otherwise it starts to look overworked. And we've got a little bit of detail down here, and there's some morsel here that Mildred is looking at. And then I'm just using water on the brush and blending these in, softening some softening some of the edges off. Just dropping it in like that creates a lovely effect in the still damp wash. And just one or two more little touches of alizarin crimson at the same time. It wasn't quite as red in places as this, but you have to use a bit of artistic license now and again just to beef it up. And really that's stage 2 done. Right, the paper's dried out, and all I'm going to do now is to just heighten the sort of shapes of these birds in the background. Not too much, because otherwise they'll come forward and they'll spoil the sense of depth that I'm trying to create here. The atmosphere on that particular day when we were down there was quite bright, and so we could see things quite clearly. But I'm introducing a little bit of haze into this so that it makes it a bit more interesting, creates more depth. This was the start of an expedition into Patagonia. Right, we'll work on Mildred in a moment. I'll just put a touch of the sea in there. Don't want that to be too strong, but it's just to give a sense of the sea. So we've got more of a shadow area down here. and then losing the this edge with some water, just softening it off. Darkening the bottom. We'll work on this band now. This is a very jagged sort of edge. And following the contours of the bird's chest around. They look very human, these penguins. When you see them, they're very gregarious birds indeed. And they waddle along and they look as though they're chatting away to each other, just as we do as humans. And then all of a sudden, crash, they'll go flying, they'll trip over something in the most clumsy way on land. And it looks so funny. Alright, I've got to soften that. This softening off process is so vital, really. They really have very large beaks. I've given it a bit of a curl up there. So this part is catching the light more, so what I will do is I'll bring in some darker tone in a moment. And there's quite a bit of shadow here. There's some shadow across the ground as the light's coming from the right hand side. And I'm just going to introduce some spatter into the foreground. So that I've introduced it into the sky as well, which I didn't really want to do, but it's quite easy to get rid of the spatter if you act very quickly. And I'm just going to darken this part of the edge of the beach. A bit of shadow there. Right, that stage finished. So I've got a mixture of cobalt blue and burnt umber, and I'm just putting on the darker parts of the penguin. These are the parts that are in shadow. And I'm just going to soften the junction off between the shadow area and the sunlit area. This is her other wing. And just strengthen this a little bit. And we're pretty much there then. Just got a little touch of shadow under here, strengthening that. And I'm just using a number 1 rigger to put a little, just a hint of detail on these pebbles. Sort of vignetting it so that I don't put too many in. Otherwise it just gets a little bit overworked. Put every single pebble in. These are amazing creatures, and even the most miserable old git looking at these penguins will make him into a very excited, cachinnating old git. It's just lovely to see nature at its best, and these birds really do give you a sense of you know, the nature being such an amazing teacher of us as we go out and look at the world and see all the miseries, and then we see these and they bring us to life again. They really do. So that's it. We've got the penguin, the main one. Mildred's looking down at the ground here at something, and we've got the background penguins a little bit haughty and detached from her in a way. So it creates a lovely effect, and this interaction of even different species in a painting like this creates a lovely narrative that you can exploit, and you can create little tales there. So enjoy painting these penguins, because they are terrific little birds.